Want to do the acknowledgement to country, please.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. My name's Mark Sutherland, proud Gomeroi man. Just want to acknowledge the country that we're standing on at the moment, or sitting on at the moment, by saying Yama, Yamane Gomeroi, Wallabagniani, Wunungalawa, Ylambo Murray, Marumara, Ngale Down, Dilia Yanbali, Garnamaris Gangal Gomeroi Yamlanginda, Winalanginda, Winangalawa. And that's the language spoken by our families and our communities across the northwest of New South Wales and across our LGA, just making sure we acknowledge the country that we're on, the land of the Gomeroi people, who pay respects as well as both past and present, who have cared and still care for this country. And it was great to see the councillors and the staff and the events we were able to put on for Reconciliation Week, which was last week. Coming off the back of Reconciliation Week, I think it's important to keep that momentum moving forward and really pay attention to the role that we play in shaping the direction of the future. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Councillor Sutherland. I'll ask all those in the room to please stand. It's the leading prayer. Almighty God, we humbly beseech Thee to vouchsafe Thy blessing upon this council, direct and prosper our deliberations to the advancement of Thy glory and the true welfare of the people of the Regional Council and Australia. Amen. Thanks, Councillor. We'll move on to item 1, apologies and leaves of absence. As we're all here tonight, we'll move on to item 2, community consultation. There's no one registered for community consultation. I'll go straight to item 3, minutes of the previous meeting, and I'll ask for a mover and a second. Move Councillor Betts, seconded Councillor Southwell. Councillor Betts, any comments on that? Yes. Anyone wish to speak against them being a true and correct record? There being no one, I will put the recommendation that they be accepted. All those in favour?
Aye.
Those against? Carried. We'll move on to item 4, disclosure of interest. Councillor Sutherland.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to disclose a conflict of interest on item 12.4. As a member of the Tamworth NAIDOC committee and I believe current co-chair of the NAIDOC committee, I'd like to declare a significant non-pecuniary interest, and I'll be leaving the room for that conversation.
Thanks, Councillor Sutherland. Any other declarations and disclosures of interest? No. We'll move on to item 5, Merrill Minute. There is no Merrill Minute. We'll move on to 6. There's no notice of motion. We'll move straight into councillor reports, and we'll talk to item 8. We have no environmental and planning. Infrastructure and services on 8 is 8.1. Could I have a move in a second? To move Councillor Tickle, seconded Councillor Betts. Councillor Tickle, you want to speak to that? Anyone wish to speak against that? Any further comments on that? I'll move the recommendation. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
All those against? Carried. We'll move on to item 8.2. Could I have a move in a second, please? Moved Councillor Betts, seconded Councillor Coates. Councillor Betts, you wish to speak to that?
No, Mr Mayor.
Anyone wish to speak against that recommendation? Any further comments on that recommendation? There being no further comments, I'll put that recommendation. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. We'll move straight on to item 8.3. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Move Councillor Coates, seconded Councillor Berg. Councillor Coates, you wish to speak to that?
No, thank you.
Anyone wish to speak against that recommendation? Any comments on that recommendation? I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those against? Carried. Moving on to 9, governance strategy and finance. We have 9.1, draft manning notice policy. Could I have a mover and a seconder, please? Move Councillor Tickle, seconded Councillor Sutherland. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Tickle? Anyone wish to speak against that recommendation? I'll put the recommendation. Oh, sorry.
Sorry, I'd just like to speak about it or ask some questions, if I may. Yeah. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Just carried away, wasn't I?
Right. Just in relation to this policy or proposed policy, draft policy, was there any annexure in relation to the report highlighting how many incidences occur each year to council staff?
Through you, Mr Mayor.
We do have that recorded through our workplace health and safety in the vault. And I guess over the last, since the start of the year, we've noticed an increase in, behaviours that we would call non-respectful towards staff, both whether it be our parking ranges out in the streets, whether it's related to police being called. We've also have our customer service staff, whether it be on the phone, through additional insurance claims, etc., plus also an incident obviously here in the chamber itself. And I guess that's been our observation, is that we're seeing an increased amount of aggressive behaviour by, unhappy residents and wanting just to formalise this process. It's also to make sure that as an organisation that we're actually then recording if someone's been banned from attending a tip in one location and they're not banned from another one, and then we don't know. And if we've got multiple people with multiple interactions across the organisation, it means we're able to control that a little bit more. The banning notice itself is probably the final straw. There is communication going forward with community members around, we've listened to you, we've kind of exhausted it. It is definitely a last resort kind of situation, or if it escalates to that point where the physical well-being and safety of the staff is at risk, or community.
Thanks, Jason. I might ask the General Manager also to make a comment on that.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillor Rodder, we'll take the bit on notice about the actual numbers and we can compile that. Jason has touched on the fact that we've had a number of instances at landfills. We've also had instances at our entertainment venues, so ALEC, Trek, and also at our library where people have misused things like the internet services and those sorts of things. So there's been a range. We've always actually used the Enclosed Land Act to ban people. This policy just gives us a formalised platform to say council has adopted this position to protect our staff, rather than just a ad hoc application of the Enclosed Lands Act.
Yeah, okay.
Councillors, I think it demonstrates sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Mr Mayor. I just had one other thing. So thank you. Yeah, just in relation to the, I assume that people get obviously warnings before that's the last straw, because I was worried about, does it reference police or court actions as well, that in terms of the final outcome? And just finally, council does provide services to community. I guess the question I had was, how do the community, banned residents in the community, how would they pay rates and things like that if they were potentially banned from council assets?
Very easy, Mr Mayor. We allow all residents, even those that find themselves on the end of the notice, to still communicate through our email for the purposes of paying rates and things like that, and to ask questions in that respect. So we can't cut off complete, unless, of course, then it's become a police action, and therefore, we have to step our way through that.
Sorry, and there was one very important thing: sunset clause. Is there a time? It depends what they do, I guess.
Yeah, through Mr Mayor. So you can actually reapply every 2 years to actually have your ban reviewed. That doesn't necessarily mean it will be, and would depend on the nature of the offence. I think the key to this is people have to understand that if they behave badly, they're going to be deprived of some of the services that they would otherwise be entitled to, like everybody else. Everybody's entitled to access the library until you do the wrong thing and either threaten the staff or misuse the resources or do whatever, which then creates an environment where other people can't enjoy that environment. So I guess it's no different to somebody being banned from a hotel from being intoxicated and threatening patrons and so on. They give up the right to be able to enjoy that opportunity when they behave badly.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, look, I fully support this motion. No one should ever come to work and be subject to abuse or violence. I'd just like to know that when this occurs, something of this nature occurs, and we give them a ban notice, is there an appellant's process? So can they appeal?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, through you, Mr Mayor, as the Exec Manager has said, that this is really the last straw. So we would issue somebody with a letter to say that the behaviour was unacceptable, that any repeat of the behaviour, and that would be as long as they hadn't physically threatened the staff. There would be obviously a line there that you wouldn't be able to cross. But repeated bad behaviour, they would have an opportunity to say, well, I behaved that way because of X, Y, Z. If they repeat it on numerous occasions, that's when we would implement the ban limit. So it wouldn't just be on a whim or a say-so, it would be real evidence of repeated systematic behaviour that's not acceptable.
Councillor Burke and Councillor.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Mr Mayor, my question was quite simple with regards to how do the broader community or how do the broader staff within the organisation know that someone's banned? So is there intention to have a list, a public list or a private list? How can that be known?
Yes, it would be an internal private list to all of our customer-facing areas of the council.
Councillor Southwell.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I think I just wanted to say I'm very supportive of this policy. I think we have an obligation and a duty of care to ensure the safety of our staff and also visitors who are also frequently visiting our public facilities as well. So I think it's a great idea. We've obviously been subject to this ourselves in the last few months of our council. So to have a ban is provides a little bit more grounds for us to make sure that staff are safe, and I think that's very important. Just in terms of your comment, Mr Collins, around the parking officers, I think it would be difficult for us to implement this policy for those because they're out in the community, because you can't exactly put a ban though on, the community walking the streets, I guess. So what did you mean in terms of the parking officers?
Well, obviously, from a workplace health and safety issue, the physical well-being of our staff is first and foremost. So if we have a member of the public that was to put our parking officers in that situation, we would then look at how that then would apply across the rest of the organisation in one part. So depending on how their behaviour was it repeat behaviour again? As the General Manager said, it wouldn't be a first strike and you're banned, unless of course it escalated to a point where police were involved directly.
And Mr Mayor, if I could add to that, I've just recently done a workplace inspection with our parking officers, spoke to them about their concerns and some of the new technology, which means they don't have to have such a close interface with people when they're issuing parking tickets and so on. So there's one step there, but we have had people on the street threaten our parking officers to follow them back to the office where they reside, or to confront them or wait for them outside their known place of work. So it's about where they are located and ensuring they're protected when they're in their normal workspace. They understand that when they go out into the street, they wear body cameras, they record any escalation of events and so on. So they're protected while they're doing that, but it's about saying somebody can't, I guess, stalk them at their normal office location as well.
Any further comments? Councillor, I'll just say that we've been doing what we've been doing for a long time. It's an ad hoc process. This formalises a process, and we've got a duty of care to our staff and to yourselves. And I think this just formalises it, and it hopefully will work well. And for those of you that don't know, there is some activities in the southern part of this nation, in Victoria mainly, where there is groups of people that are now getting together and creating some unwanted activity at civic functions like council meetings and other things. So we're just getting ahead of the game a bit here as well. So council, I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Those against, carried. Councillors, we'll move on to item 10, community services. There are no issues there, no reports there. Item 11, reports to be heard in closed council. There are, Mr General Manager, I'll ask, is there anyone in the room that would like any of those matters to be held, or offer members of the public any representations to have any of those matters in open council that shouldn't be considered in closed council? There is none. Mr General Manager, do you have any representations to have any of those items in closed council held in open council?
No, Mr Mayor.
Could I have somebody moved Councillor Bett, seconded Councillor South, we move into closed council. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
I'll ask the General Manager to,
Say.
when we're right, to report on the findings within closed.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Councillors, this is a report from the closed session of the ordinary council meeting held on the 6th of June 2023. In closed council night, you considered 4 items, 12.1 to 12.4. For each of those items, you adopted the recommendation in your business paper.
Thank you, Mr General Manager. I call for a motion to accept. Councillor Cade, second to Councillor Sample. All those in favour say aye. And the motion to close the meeting. Councillor Ryder, Councillor Southwood.
You don't need
You don't need to.
No, but I am tonight because it's before 7 o'clock.